We Need to Talk About Kevin is a 2011 thriller drama directed by Lynn Ramsey and adapted from the 2003 fiction novel by Lionel Shriver. The film centers around Eva Cachadorian, played by Tilda Swinton, as she deals with the aftermath of a school massacre committed by her son, Kevin, depicted by Ezra Miller. Although Eva and her soul-shattering experience is the focus of the movie, Kevin, her husband Franklin, played by John C. Reilly, and their daughter Celia often make appearances, providing insight into the life of Kevin and what led him to commit such a horrendous crime. The story progresses in a non-linear fashion, frequently employing flashbacks of Kevin's life. The only present-day actions seen in the film are Eva leaving her house and visiting Kevin in prison on the second anniversary of the massacre, right before he is transferred to an adult prison. For the purpose of this video, I will actually be focusing on Kevin and trying to diagnose his mental illness as well as suggest treatment. Let me discuss some client history first. So, Kevin's family history, medical, mental history, those sort of things. Kevin lives with his mother and father in an outwardly stable household. However, from the beginning, Eva has difficulty connecting with Kevin as his mother, while Kevin shows strong bonds to Franklin, his father. As a newborn, Kevin cries so much with Eva that she tries to drown out the sound with a jackhammer, only to calm down in Franklin's arms. As the firstborn child, Kevin sees his baby sister Celia as a threat when she is born, but eventually learns to tolerate her, using her to do menial tasks for him, such as getting a soda. Near the date of the massacre, Eva and Franklin discuss getting divorced, and Kevin overhears them and confronts them about it.
Listen, buddy, it's easy to misunderstand something when you hear it out of context.
Why would I not know the context? I am the context.
There isn't a lot on Kevin's medical history in the film, but there's a few situations that correlate with his mental illness. For example, as a toddler, Kevin torments his mother by refusing to talk. Thinking his hearing is damaged from all the screaming he did as a baby, she takes him to the doctor, who says there's nothing wrong with him.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
In his early childhood, Kevin torments his mother by refusing to potty train, which frustrates his mother to the point that she throws him across the room, breaking his arm. Later, we'll see how he uses the broken arm to manipulate others. As far as mental history goes, Kevin is actually high-functioning mentally, only acting like he can't talk, or refusing to potty train, in order to manipulate those around him. To Franklin, Kevin is just a normal kid, but he acts completely different around Eva. Now, let's take a look at some of Kevin's observable symptoms in the film. I'll be characterizing his actions with a set of traits that are all connected by one illness, which I'll diagnose him with later. We frequently see Kevin as a toddler being very non-compliant with his mother. This could be characterized by having a shallow affect, which is an emotional poverty, or a feeling of coldness towards others. After shamelessly insulting his mother's decoration of a room, Kevin defaces it with paint, showing a lack of remorse, a lack of empathy, and a tendency towards impulsivity. At one point in the film, Kevin is fed up with his mother, so he decides to defecate in his pants, forcing her to change his diaper for a second time. This frustrates Eva, so she throws him across the room, breaking his arm. Kevin then lies to Franklin about how he broke his arm, so he can use this to blackmail Eva. Right after Kevin slams his sandwich onto a table, so Eva has to clean it up, Franklin comes home from work, and Kevin immediately switches emotions, acting enthused about his day. Ranting about the average person's obsession with shocking news, Kevin talks about how people like him are the ones that get attention on TV. In order to occupy himself, Kevin continuously practices archery after his father gives him a bow and arrow as a gift. After Celia's pet bunny, Mr. Snuffles, is found dead in the kitchen sink, Eva uses drain cleaner to clean up the mess. Eva claims to have put the drain cleaner away afterwards, so when Celia accidentally goes blind in one eye, she thinks it's Kevin's fault, but he denies responsibility and says Celia is going to have to suck it up. Now, in a rapid-fire list, I'm going to show you a few more examples of Kevin demonstrating these traits. Despite clearly being at the bookstore, Kevin lies when his mother asks if he was at the bookstore that day. Before Eva takes Kevin out to dinner, he gorges himself with a chicken, saying he was hungry. Once at dinner, he completely breaks down the conversation, making his mother uncomfortable. Kevin also collects CDs with viruses on them, which his mother ends up finding and accidentally spreading to everyone at her work. At one point, Kevin is caught masturbating and simply continues, showing no remorse. These 10 traits are part of Robert Hare's psychopathy checklist, which scores clients from 0, or does not apply, to 2, or fully applies, on each trait, with a minimum of 30 out of 40 points to qualify as a psychopath. Now, the film does not show enough to go through the checklist completely, but from my common knowledge, I would label Kevin as a psychopath, also known as a sociopath, also called antisocial personality disorder. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM for short, goes in depth about the diagnosis and treatment of both antisocial personality disorder and callous unemotional conduct disorders, two disorders which are closely linked, since callous unemotional traits are a prerequisite for psychopathy. If we look at the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder, we see that many of the criteria are met by Kevin, including criteria A1 through A6, C, and D. Criteria B is not met because Kevin is only 15 when he commits the murders, and he's only 17 when we see him in the film. What can be accurately diagnosed is a mild childhood onset conduct disorder with limited prosocial emotions, featuring a lack of remorse, callous emotions, and shallow affect. The real controversy is whether it's morally justifiable to label a child as a psychopath. Now, there have been child psychopathy tests developed. Jennifer Kahn's New York Times article, Can You Call a 9-Year-Old a Psychopath?, discusses the presence of these callous, unemotional traits in children, which can be measured with child psychopathy tests, which in this case would reveal that Kevin is, in fact, a psychopath. Now I'm going to perform a functional assessment on a scale of 1 to 100 to see how well Kevin functions in society. Up until the massacre, I would give Kevin a 75 out of 100 when it comes to societal function. For the majority of Kevin's life, it can be inferred that he functioned fairly well in social settings, likely appearing friendly in order to gain trust from others and manipulate them to his own ends. Unfortunately, the film makes no mention of Kevin's social life, including his friendships, romantic relationships, and general behavior in school. Once Kevin commits the homicides, I would give him a score of 5 or less, due to his explicit danger to society. While in prison, his functional assessment score would remain fairly low, but with treatment, he could be released back into society as an adult with a better score, perhaps around 40, since he would have trouble getting jobs and forming relationships as a registered criminal. Let's take a look at treatment for Kevin. No treatment explicitly occurs within the movie, although Prozac is made mention of towards the end.
Try to the minor. Out of your head on Prozac. You'll be out of there in a couple of years.
Prozac is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or antidepressant, that has been linked to violence. But these so-called side effects are the result of underlying mental illness, and studies show that Prozac actually reduces aggressive behavior, which is why it's used to treat conduct disorders. Kevin, along with his lawyers, used Prozac as a way to shift the blame and reduce his sentence. As of right now, there is no known cure for psychopathy, particularly because it is linked to reduced gray matter in the paralimbic system of the brain, which is involved with empathy, motivation, and self-control. Psychotherapy can be used to treat antisocial personality disorder, but there are no drugs specifically for this disorder. Rather, individual symptoms may be treated, such as with Prozac for the impulsive aggressive behavior. In addition to drug therapy, the conduct disorder could be treated with family therapy and family intervention, using techniques such as positive reinforcement instead of punishment to attain desired behaviors. However, with Kevin's callous, unemotional tendencies, the likelihood of reinforcement or punishment to work are low. So where does Kevin go from here? Unfortunately, due to Kevin's history of having antisocial personality traits throughout his childhood and committing such a horrendous crime, there's a high likelihood for recidivism, meaning without proper treatment in prison, he would be likely to commit another crime once released. The good thing is that antisocial personality disorder begins to remit by age 40, so Kevin would eventually outgrow his violent tendencies. We need to talk about Kevin as just a movie. Well, and a book. But the level of realism it displays is remarkable. In that New York Times article, Can You Call a 9-Year-Old a Psychopath?, Jennifer Kahn describes the behavior of a child named Michael, who shows signs of callous, unemotional traits. She speaks of his uncanny ability to shift emotions instantly, and his inconsolable screaming as a child without rational cause. For this reason, we need to talk about Kevin makes a positive impact on the field of psychology, in that it sheds light on real problems that children like Michael face. Any progress towards removing the stigma around labeling will ultimately help in the treatment of antisocial personality disorder. The earlier, the better. By waiting for a diagnosis until 18, personality traits are already cemented, and crimes may have already been committed, as in Kevin's case.